G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On today's episode, we have Mel Gray or Mel.Hunts on Instagram. How are you going?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you. Sounds like you've had a busy day.
Yeah. I got out before dark this morning into one of my usual, my favorite hunting spots, and spent the whole morning covering heaps of country and so many sambar out and about. I was actually pinned by a mob of 4 or 5 of them at one stage, and ended up getting through them and cresting a ridge top and shooting a nice little stag. So it was good day.
That's awesome to hear. I've only hunted sambar I think once, and once over a period of a week. Bloody cool animal.
Yeah.
Especially when they start
they're amazing.
sounding
and
off.
They're the Well, they're the main species that I hunt because I live like right in the heart of some of the best sambar country. So they're available pretty much at my back doorstep. And when I'm not targeting other species in the rut, I pretty much just chip away at them and can't get sick of them.
That's awesome. So are you hunting public land or private land?
Mostly public, yeah. I've got a small collection of private properties, but I find that the better genetics are on public land.
That's awesome. So good. So we'll kick straight into the questions. Whereabouts are you from?
I'm from northeast Victoria, near the border of New South, and I've lived here my whole life. It's amazing. It's close to just about everything. It's a halfway point between Sydney and Melbourne, and I've loved it. And the mountains especially, they're my favourite place in the world. So nice to be right near them.
That's awesome. So you got a few species close by then, or you're driving a few hours to get in with stuff, or pretty much everything's on your doorstep?
I've got fallow and sambar immediately around me, but I don't tend to hunt the fallow as much locally because the areas that they hold usually just gets hammered, absolutely hammered. Hunting pressure is way too high. So for my fallow, I generally travel a couple of hours. But there's also red deer nearby, I believe. The only issue with that is that you need access to private properties for them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So sambar are your favourite species to chase by far then?
I think it depends on the time of year. Like, to me, you can't get anything better than a ruddy fallow buck.
Yeah.
But for the most of the year, sambar occupy most of my time. That's
awesome. So what do you do for work?
I'm education support in a school locally. So, working in the education industry provides me with a really good work-life balance, and I get the school holiday periods where I can go off and hunt, and it's great because that first lot of school holidays usually lines up beautifully with the fallow and red rut. So, it's just ideal. And then the second holidays line up pretty well with the rusa rut. So I can generally get out and target those species in those 2-week periods. And it's beautiful. I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. How do people that you work with in the education sector react when they find out what your weekend and holiday activities are?
I've generally had a really good response. My students know that I hunt as well, and they think it's great. Yeah, I can't say I've had anyone respond poorly upon hearing it. Yeah, there's a lot of people that say, you know, oh, I could never do that. But they become really intrigued and really curious when they hear that I do it. And yeah.
That's really great to hear. Complete opposite to what you would think most of the reactions would be in that type of sector anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you get into hunting?
My father has always been a really keen hunter. And, you know, I grew up seeing him go out and shoot sambar and, you know, go out after foxes and everything like that. But I didn't really get into it until I was maybe 19. And I was actually, I was one of those young teenagers that, like, I was the complete opposite. I was into all the animal rescues and, you know, all hunting is bad. And I was just, I don't know what I was thinking. But I started off stalking deer for photography purposes. I bought myself a really nice camera and, you know, we've got heaps of really nice state forest around here that you can't actually hunt, but they hold really good genetics. So I'd be going into those areas with the camera and I'd end up with some really good photos. And I also ended up spending a lot of time up in Kosciuszko National Park, looking at the fallow populations around there. And yeah, I guess I ended up going out hunting a few times with my dad and just really appreciating the process. And so I slowly transitioned over to the rifle. And yeah, bought myself a Tikka T3X Lite 308. And yeah, I was pretty anxious around it to start off with. I didn't have much confidence, but one morning I went out on my own and it was just the perfect setup. There was a hind and a yearling sambar just out on some creek flats. And that yearling sambar, it ended up hanging back once its mother ran off and just honking at me for ages. So I took that opportunity to build my confidence and, yeah, shot it. And from there, I've just been, you know, unstoppable. I've been hooked.
That's awesome. So was that your first deer or your first?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it was my first deer.
That's so good. And how long ago was that?
It actually wasn't too long ago. It was the start of 2021.
Really? Yeah, not that long ago at all. That's awesome.
No, not long at all.
So how long were you photographing deer before you made the jump?
About 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you really got a good chance to learn their habits and where to actually find them. So that would have given you a great jump.
Yeah. Well, it really helped me develop my stalking techniques and yeah, just being able to watch a couple of different species. I learnt so much.
That's so good. Yeah, I remember seeing your photos starting to pop up on Instagram around that time and through Facebook on a few of the hunting groups and the deer groups and stuff like that. So that was awesome to see. And then, I believe I remember you posting when you first got the rifle and when you first took one of the first deer that you got. So no, that's awesome to see that you've progressed from the animal rescue side of stuff into into photography and then jumped across to the hunting side of stuff. And you still keep up with your photography by the looks of it as well? Yeah,
I do. I was doing calendars every year, which I've had to drop back on because the rifle hunting has occupied so much of my time. I just haven't been able to take enough photos for calendars. But I still get out and take photos here and there.
You just need to do a meat calendar now.
Yeah.
Just different cuts and slices of meat.
Yeah. Well, the problem with these cameras that I use is that they're so heavy and bulky, and I can't carry them if I have the rifle with me. It's so impractical. So it's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, I could fully understand, especially in the terrain that you're hunting them in. It's a bit
Yeah.
hillier than South Australia, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So, gear run through. So, when you're going out, what type of gear are you taking out? Are you just going out for a morning hunt, for a full day hunt? What's your normal setup?
So most of the time I just do like half day hunts. I'll get up early and head out before dark, but I always make sure to have a decent backpack with me. And I use a Hunter's Element boundary pack at the moment.
Yeah.
And so that's got the hip straps and everything, because I get sore shoulders if I don't have a good backpack, and I find that everything just starts to ache. So I really need the weight distribution and to be able to put heavy weight on my hips and, work through my legs rather than straining everything else. But yeah, the Hunter's Element boundary pack, obviously my rifle, the Tikka T3X Lite. I find that having a bino harness is really helpful. So I use the marsupial gear. It's just one of the older models. I haven't upgraded for a while.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, they're super helpful. What else?
What about binos? What binos are you running?
Oh, they're just cheapo. Oh God, I can't even remember the brand of them, honestly. But they cost me about $250. I'm sure the brand will come to me.
Vortex,
soon.
is it?
No. Oh, geez. No, I can't remember.
Oh, good. Are you?
But they work. They do the job, and they have for years. So, yeah, I like them.
I suppose when you got a camera anyway, you're just using the binos to locate them, and then you're zooming right in with the camera anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
What about, do you run a water bladder, or are you a drink bottle person, or?
I just use drink bottles.
Yep. What about snacks? What type of snacks are you taking out with you?
My favorite snack for hunting is just a good old ham and cheese sandwich on white bread. Love having one of those in my pack. But normally, I'll take a banana and some protein bars as well.
Yeah, nice. Especially with the type of kilometers that you're putting in, by the sounds of it, when you're getting out there. What about top beginner tip for someone getting in? Being someone who's fairly new into getting into hunting, what do you recommend, especially for a woman getting into hunting?
I think it's just about spending as much time in the bush as you possibly can. Getting out, learning to read the bush, like familiarizing yourself with the local areas, and just learning the noises and the sights. Being able to pick out sounds that are out of the ordinary. The movements of the animals, the areas that hold more traffic, the areas that attract more deer, and where their bedding spots are. But on the way of being a female in the sport, I've had a lot of people approach me asking how I do it alone and how I've gained the confidence, and it's all just spending time in the bush and learning the bush.
That's awesome. Do you mostly hunt alone, or do you have a few hunting buddies that you go out with?
I have a couple of hunting buddies that I catch up with, a couple of times a year, but it's mostly solo stuff. And that's just the way I prefer it, really. Like, I do enjoy going out with that select few people, but really hunting is it's a therapeutic thing for me. And I work in a school with people, and I need that time to get away and to recharge. And it's the solo stuff is where it's at.
Completely understandable. What about cuts of meat? What cuts of meat are you taking when you're going out? Because it sounds like you're going a decent way in, and weight's always a problem. What are you taking? Back straps, legs, just as much as you can when you can take, or?
Yeah, it depends on what it is and obviously where. So the stag that I shot this morning, he was, over a hill and up the next hill and a long way in. So I boned out one of his back legs and I took his back straps and I took his head.
Yeah, beautiful.
And, being a sambar stag, that's that's pretty much all I could manage. But if it's fallow or the smaller species, I'll take 3 legs, back straps, heart. It all depends.
How often are you eating venison?
Most days.
Most days? Awesome.
Yeah, and my dogs eat it too, but I'll cook it up for meal prep for my lunches at work, and I get plenty of it, so I eat plenty of it.
Ah, that's awesome. What about favorite thing to cook with venison? What's your go-to meal there?
Schnitzels are probably my go-to, but my favorite would be shanks, and I cook them up in an osso buco sort of recipe. So that's usually white wine, garlic, chicken stock, and passata, and then I slow cook it for 7 hours.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's one of our Monday go-to dishes is just venison in the slow cooker. Chuck a bunch of curry sauces and spices and that in the morning and then get home and you can't beat it.
Yeah. And the shanks, I used to just cut the shanks up for dog food, but since I've started eating them, my dogs are not getting them at all. No way.
Yeah, shanks are definitely one of my favorite cuts as well. No, because the country I hunt, I can pretty much get a vehicle to wherever I shoot a deer, walk back to the car, drive in, grab it, and I pretty much take out the whole animal. So it's good being able to take out the whole animal because then you get to utilize those cuts. Being in Australia, for overseas listeners, we don't have, because they're an introduced species, we don't have to take the meat if we can't or if we don't want to. I know how that sounds for some people, but it's just how it is with deer populations in Australia. And someone like yourself who's getting out so much, you can only utilize so much venison as well. And you're doing a good conservation thing by taking numbers off of the landscape as well. What about taking the meat to work? Are you sharing some of that meat with people that have never tried venison?
We've used it once in a cooking lesson. We made schnitzels. Well, my students made schnitzels with it, just so that they could have a go at trying it.
Yeah, cool.
And they really liked it. But aside from that, I usually just take it for my own eating.
Definitely understandable there. What about top 5 beginner items for someone getting into hunting?
I reckon bino, harness, and obviously the binoculars. Like I mentioned before, a good pack with a good frame and hip straps on it. Game bags go a long way, especially if you're hunting in summer and there's insects everywhere.
Is there any type of game bags in particular you're running?
I use the Argali game bags. I've got the bigger pack at the moment, and it's worked beautifully for the sambar.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, they're great. But a good knife. Can't do anything if you don't have a good knife.
What knife are you running?
I've got, at the moment, I've got a Tassie Tiger, Tassie Tiger fixed blade knife that they gave me. And that's been absolutely stunning. It's also just a really nice looking knife, but it's worked really, really well. I used that on my big sambar stag that I got a couple of weeks ago, caped out the whole thing, butchered him up, and it was great. I also use a sword boning knife, which has been awesome. I've had that for years now, and it was my go-to. But Yeah, those two are the main ones.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, and then obviously the fifth item is just good boots. You know, you got to look after your feet.
What boots are you running?
I was using Hunter's Element boots, but I've just purchased a pair of Zamberlands.
Yeah, nice.
I've got to wear them in. I haven't yet. I was going to wear them on my hunt this morning, but I hadn't worn them in yet, so I need to get that done. But I've heard really good things about them, and I'm pretty impressed so far. And yeah, looking forward to wearing those on future hunts.
How are you going about wearing new boots in when you get some? Are you just going on short morning trips, or are you just wearing them around the neighborhood for a week or so?
Yeah, probably just wear them around the joint.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What about zombie apocalypse weapon? I haven't asked this one for a couple of episodes, and a few people were like, "Where's it gone? Where's it gone?" So I brought it back for you.
I actually had to really think about that one. I reckon a spear, because they keep you outside of a zombie's range. You can make one from pretty much anything. They're reusable and they're silent. So, perfect. Yeah.
That's definitely an out of a box answer. We haven't had that one yet, so that's really good.
Nice.
So, what have you forgotten on a hunting trip?
I have forgotten water way too many times, and it has landed me in some pretty rough situations. Given that I use the water bottles, they're not as easy to remember as the bladders, because they're not just a natural part of your pack. So, yeah, I've taken them out of my pack and forgotten to refill them, or forgotten to put them in, and I've ended up, dehydrated and just feeling real crook after my hunts.
Yeah, that's never fun. I've been there a couple times, and I have a 3-liter water bladder in my pack, and I always carry another liter drink bottle as well with some electrolytes and that in my bag. So just in case something happens, you can always rehydrate. And a couple times I've been hunting with a couple mates that have forgotten water, so it's always good to have that little bit of extra in there, because they've been quite crook afterwards by not having.
No good, but because I take Melody hunting with me, my golden retriever, I tend to remember it a lot more in the cooler months, because I have to look after her, and it's during the summer months when it's really important and I don't have her with me, that I tend to forget it.
So do you take a bowl with you as well, or like a collapsible bowl for her to drink out of?
Yeah. I went and bought one of the collapsible, I think it was a coffee mug from Mansfield Hunting and Fishing a while ago. And so that's just sitting in my pack at all times.
And for those that don't know, what type of dog is Melody?
She's a golden retriever.
Golden retriever? Awesome. There'll be a few listeners of this podcast that are, and previous guests that would be pretty happy to hear that. So, Daniel, I'm talking to you. He's golden retriever nuts.
Yeah. Definitely not a dog breed that you see in the hunting side of things as much anymore. They're utilized more just as a family dog, but they've got all the potential in the world for it. And Melody loves hunting. The moment she sees my camo gear come out, she's drooling. She won't leave me alone.
And how are you using her when you're going out? Because there's, so many different breeds. I'm not sure what the types of breeds that are regulated for different types of hunting over there. How can you use a golden retriever for deer hunting?
The breed is listed as one of the gun dogs that you can use in Victoria. And originally I was just taking her out just for the fun of it, just as a companion to tag along. I had her in the heel position at all times. Didn't want her going out in front of me. I still don't really like having her too far in front of me, but she has learned all on her own that the smell of sambar means that there's likely going to be some fresh meat to eat. So if she smells them and they've only just crossed through, or if she knows that there's one ahead, she will really slowly move ahead of me. She'll only go about 20 meters in front of me, but she's actually started indicating them, especially the last 6 months. I've noticed her indicating a lot more, and it's not pointing to the level that, your GWPs and GSPs or your English pointers do, but it's her own way of doing it. And it's, she's locked on, her ears are forward, she's standing really rigid, and she loves it.
That's great.
She's so good. I'm really impressed with how she's gone.
Have you done, apart from just going out and spending time in the field, have you done any training whatsoever with her to get her somewhat hunt ready?
All of the deer-related training has been purely just exposure in the field, but I started her really early on foundation obedience, and so that looked like, taking her out in the local bushland when I was trail running and having her off leash, so getting her used to all the commands and teaching her boundaries. And I have a heap of release commands that work just as well in avoiding, having her chase wildlife or anything. So she learned that she wasn't to go after any of the wildlife unless I told her she could. And obviously wildlife, I didn't want that anyway.
Yeah.
But it's more useful doing that than teaching them not to chase at all, letting them know that there is a time and a place and it can be done on command, rather than just cancelling it out entirely. And that really played into the whole deer side of it. So I'll take her out deep into the bush, and she knows to leave everything that we see unless I tell her it's what she needs to go after. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's generally just the deer. And she's been really good for blood trailing as well. She's awesome.
That's great to hear. What about getting her used to the gun? How have you gone about that?
Again, just exposure, really. I think she's perfectly fine with my rifle and the sound of it, but I know with bigger calibers and rifles with muzzle brakes, she's not particularly keen on those because they're much louder to her. But the moment that my rifle goes off, she starts like whimpering and drooling, and she's ready to go. She knows that it's time to go find, and that's her command: go find. So yeah, she loves the sound of my rifle. It's just that whole reward process, I guess.
That's awesome. Did you have any issues getting her used to the gunshot to start off with? Because you hear stories of, someone shooting with the dog for the first time and them taking off miles.
Yeah. No, I guess she trusts me a lot. I'm her safe space. So her first reaction to anything that makes her fearful is to come to me. And that played in, that worked to my advantage really well. So, yeah, no issues.
That's awesome. What about the most important item you take out with you hunting?
I reckon knives. Like, you can't do anything if you have a downed deer and you don't have knives.
Yeah.
So, you'd be pretty well stuffed.
What about with first aid stuff, especially when you're taking out Melody? Are you taking out any extra first aid stuff in case you run into snakes and that with her, or?
I have a first aid kit and a snake bite kit in my bag at all times, but I'm yet to have any sort of need to use them. We do run into snakes quite a fair bit, but I haven't even done snake avoidance training with her. It just comes down to her knowing to leave those things alone.
Yeah.
And she's been spooked by them before, and again, she just came straight to me.
That's great. It's better to have them and not to need to use them anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
What about, are you taking any like emergency beacons out with you, or?
I have an EPIRB in my pack at all times. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Just in your pack, or do you have it like easy reach, or?
It's in the top pouch of my pack, so it's really easy to get to. But yeah, that's I've never had to even get it out of there. But obviously there might be a situation in future where I need to, and it should be a good spot for it, I hope.
Yeah, it's again one of those objects that's better to have and never to use than not have and need it. I've just listened to again Meat Eaters Close Calls audiobook series that they have, and it's about 4.5 hours, I think, of stories of people that have had close calls, but like close calls as in almost death, where they've, there was one lady rock climbing and she fell down a cliff, and she's gone to pull out her EPIRB and it's ran out of battery as she's using it and stuff like that. And it's just like, whew.
God, that would have been terrifying.
Oh, definitely. What about the most dangerous, sketchy thing to you that's happened when you've been out hunting or out in the bush?
I'm pretty lucky in that I haven't really had anything too sketchy happen, but if I was to name one, it's probably a recent goat hunt that I went on in just these sheer cliff faces. So I think the recovery of 2 goats that I shot was pretty hairy. Yeah, obviously the whole mob of them, they were just on these cliff faces overlooking a massive river. And I've made the decision to shoot 2 of the billy goats in that mob. And one of them just rolled straight down and caught itself on a fallen tree. And navigating that cliff face, it was pretty scary. But yeah, nothing more really that I've encountered that put me on edge. Yeah.
That looked like a cool hunt. Was that your first goat hunt?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I ended up shooting 3 billy goats from that mob. And yeah, it was amazing. It was a really, really cool experience. And just having them, run from one end of the cliff face to the other, back and forth, and being up, well, I ended up getting on top of the hill there and looking down over them. And you could really just run from one end to the other and pick them off as they went. It was invigorating. It was very exciting.
It's amazing how well they can use that real cliffy country. It's insane.
Definitely up there.
My bread and butter hunting is goats with a bow, and just navigating through the hills and how quick they just maneuver through it. But then just coming back from New Zealand and watching Tar maneuver through just 10 times worse stuff than that. It's just insane at how well they and how easy they make it look.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
So what went into organising your goat trip? Was it far from you? Much planning? Public land?
It was about a 5-hour drive. I'd been invited to a private property up towards Bathurst. And yeah, the whole idea of the trip was to hunt rutting fallow, but there were goats and pigs there as well. And it was like just a end of a long day, heading back to camp at 2 in the afternoon, and just came across this mob. So it was just an opportunistic type thing.
Yeah, beautiful. That's so good. Did you get onto many fallow while you're up that way?
Oh, heaps. It was just out of control. Some really, really incredible rut displays and rut action. Things that I hadn't actually witnessed before. So
Cool.
it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like an incredible area. Two of the past guests are from that area, Brett Meldrum and Cody Giron. So it's cool seeing the variety of game they get on in that area. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot spot. There's awesome animals.
Did you get onto any pigs while you're up there then?
I bumped into a few, but I didn't shoot any.
Have you hunted pigs before? Because there's a few kicking around in Victoria.
Yeah, there's actually a mob of them, or a population of them on the mountain right behind my house.
Oh, wow.
But I have only bumped into those ones when I've been walking Melody without the rifle.
Always.
And then each time I've gone in with the rifle, I haven't seen them. Yes, it is always the way. But I shot my first pig in March this year when I was up towards Tamworth it was another fellow rut trip. It was this big spotty razorback boar, and just the size of him was amazing, like absolutely insane. And I shot him once perfectly in the shoulder, and he dropped, and then he just got straight back up and started to move again. So I had to put another round into him, and that took him down. But yeah, having a look at him up close, and feeling the shoulder pads that they have, big appreciation for them. I hadn't realized that they were that cool, and they're real interesting animals.
They are. I haven't actually ran into a live wild pig in Australia yet. I've shot a big sow in New Zealand, a big boar in Mexico, and a couple of young ones, and shot one with a bow as well. But yeah, it's the same thing. Shot it. I was probably 35 yards and pinwheeled it straight center in the middle of the shoulder, and he dropped down, and I got up a little bit too fast to celebrate, and he just stood back up, both legs pinned, and just went straight through into the cactus. And I spent the next, 3-4 hours crawling through the cactus with javelina and all sorts, scooting through the cactus, and I'm following drops of blood, and unfortunately couldn't find him, but it just shows you how tough of an animal that they are.
Yeah, they're super tough.
And those pads are insane, but depending where you are, the young ones we shot in Mexico, we cooked them up and ate them, and it was some of the best wild game I've eaten. But it just depends on where you shoot them here in Oz, whether you should eat them or not.
I wouldn't consider eating the ones up near Tamworth at the moment because the feed is so poor. I think they're eating a lot of carcasses at the moment, so it's just not worth it.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to risk it with the different diseases that they can carry, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What's the funniest thing that's happened to you out hunting?
It wasn't so much during a hunt, it was more a photography sesh. But there's a local recreational reserve near me that it holds a good population of fallow deer. And I could see a mob of them about 200 meters away. And so I was stalking in on them, and I just found a nice little sheltered area, and I sat down and I tried calling them in with doe calls. And, sitting there trying to see if anything comes in, and just a dude walking his dog walks straight in, gives me the weirdest look, just a chick sitting in some bushes making mewing sounds.
With a big camera.
It was interesting. It was quite a difficult thing to explain to him.
That'd be the craziest thing about Victoria, being from South Australia, we don't have public land. So, you're only hunting private property. So when you do go over to somewhere like Victoria or, where I just come back from New Zealand, like running into other people while you're out there, and you've got, I know you were just photographing it, like taking photos, but having a rifle with you when you're just running into someone that's out there doing something else, it's pretty confronting for both of you if you're not used to it.
It can be.
What about top 5 dream animals?
The top of my list would be sika deer, and I'm trying to tee up a New Zealand hunt sometime in the next couple of years. I feel like they're somewhat achievable.
They are amazing. I've hunted them, haven't killed one, but just the terrain that they live in and just the sounds that they make while they're roaring is just incredible.
Yeah, I remember hearing some audio of some roaring stags that you played on a previous podcast.
Yeah.
And they sound a lot like the yellow-tailed black cockatoos we have hanging around here.
Yeah, I've got the audio here. I'm not sure if you will be able to hear it. But they do, but so sika deer, then Bulgarian fallow deer. I don't know, I've seen so many videos of the populations they have over there and the herd genetics, and they seem incredible. I'd really love to go after those. A mountain lion. I'd love to go after a mountain lion. Not so much bailed up by dogs. I know it's a popular method of hunting them, but if stalking is a possible method, I'd love to do that. Yeah, particularly hard, but the dogs seem to be the most effective way. But listening on, there's a few great podcasts. I reckon Ben O'Brien has covered it a couple times on his podcast, and just listening to the method of them, how they do it with the dogs and how they work the dogs, has made me go from wanting to just hunt them spot and stalk like yourself to, you know what, I'd probably hunt them under hounds. So learning more about how they do it and how the dogs work and how they pick up the scent depending the different environment that they are is pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. Next one, caribou. I'd like to go after a caribou, but he's got to be a bull with double shovels.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go after one that doesn't have 2 of those shovels. And then chittle deer.
Yeah.
I've hunted chittle a couple of times. I got my first one, which was just a hind, over with Hainsey.
Yep.
And I've shot a young spiky as well, but I'd love a big chittle stag.
Yeah, I can understand why. That was when I hunted with Hainsey. I definitely had my eyes out for a hind or a spike or something like that. Same with Roosa. I had my eyes open, but you were down there just probably about a month before I was down there. So the stories were pretty rolling and fresh because Hainsey just had hunters rolling through from.
Yeah, he helped out a lot of people.
Oh, it's insane. Hainsey's such a good dude. So you've tried a few different species of deer. What's been your favorite so far, and how do you rate each one?
I reckon the best eating deer I've tried has been, I'm looking at him now, red stag. Early rut, just still good amount of fat on him. Wasn't super tough, but really, really flavoursome. Just heaps of flavour. Reds would be up the top of my list. I've thought chittle maybe as number 2, but I find that a lot of people rate them really highly, but I find they're actually they don't have much flavour to them, and I think that's why people like them so much. They're really tender, but not a heap of flavour. So probably second spot would probably just be Samba deer.
Yeah.
Then chittle, then fallow and Roosa. Although the Roosa stag that I got a couple of weeks ago, he's been awesome eating. It's just with them, it can really depend on where they are and what feed they've been in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say about the red stag, because reds and fallow tend to be one of the lowest rating eating deer. But I quite rate reds and fallow for what you were saying, being that, more of a real venison flavour, real strong. And as you said with Chiddle, they tend to be quite mild. And I found hog deer to be much like that as well. It's a very, very mild flavour. Like hog deer, there's next to no flavour whatsoever. It's very, very bland. But that's why I reckon hog deer is usually the most rated eating species of the venison we have here, is because they're so bland, and people don't like that strong venison. So I tend to be very similar to you. I think I've tried everything but Rusa so far. And reds and fallow are up the top, and hog deer's closer down to the bottom just because they're so bland. I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but
I think most people tend to go off the texture of them rather than the flavour. If it's tender, then it's the best. But it doesn't bother me how tough venison is. It's definitely the flavour, I reckon. But it's like everyone says that the younger animals are better eating, but the younger animals haven't developed that flavour yet.
That's exactly. I had a very similar discussion with Ben Solaris. I'm not sure if you've listened to that episode, but he added something that was quite interesting. The Europeans, like Germany area, they tend to like rutting red stags and fallow because they like that real strong flavour and that chewiness and stuff like that. So it's just, I wonder if, like, because I've got German heritage, I wonder if that's, drawbacks from that, from just that European region that people have, and then people that don't like that real strong venison flavour, they're not from those parts of Europe that really enjoyed them.
It makes sense.
yeah, exactly. What about best hunting story?
Best hunting story? God, there's so many. Probably from this year's rut is one of my favorites. I watched a really, really nice fallow buck get shot up the top of a huge hill. He had eyes on every sort of approach, and walking back from that, I could hear a couple of bucks nearby start croaking. This was probably about midday, and I went off and pursued them because I hadn't shot anything myself that morning. I walked for ages because they were, a few systems over, a couple of hills between us. And I managed to get into the area that they were holding. And to me, I thought for a second that it was a bit of a lek, but there were only 2 bucks actually in there, but they were going off their heads. There were scrapes everywhere. And I sat down in a spot that I thought was close enough but not too close to draw the attention to me, and I just gave a rattle. So one of the croaks sounded pretty good, but the other one was like, it was the sort of sound that made you think that that's a big deer. And I waited after rattling, and nothing happened. So I started to mess around with my backpack, strapping the rattling antlers back to it. And I was on the ground. My rifle was about 1 meter away from me. And I finished strapping the antlers to my pack, and I look up, and there's a buck standing there looking at me about 7 meters away. And I'm like, oh, shit. And so I reached for my rifle, and the buck flinched but didn't run. And so I managed to put a round into him. And he was quartering too, so it was a bit of a risky shot, I guess. He was almost front on, and he ran, and I put another shot in him on the run, and he just went straight down. But yeah, I dealt with him and strapped him to my pack and everything. But this other buck that I said sounded huge, he was still going. Even after the shot and everything, he was still going. So I thought, I'm out here already. I may as well go and have a look. And I stalked around for a bit, and I managed to find where he was holding. There were does everywhere. I could see him just running back and forth, and I was in an area where I was pretty exposed, so I didn't like my chances. But I was down pretty low too, and the buck was up above me on the next hill, and he was just inside the tree line, and I couldn't get eyes on him, but I could hear him when he was croaking. I could hear him moving back and forth. And so I watched the area, and he moved on to the next hill face. So I went up, got on his level, and just started like really slowly following in behind him to see if I could get eyes on him. And I did. I saw him. I could just see he was a mennel, so really light coat. I just got a glimpse of him servicing a doe. And he was great. He was fucking awesome. He was a really, really good buck. So I thought, I'm going to try and get him as well. And I ended up getting pretty close to him, but a chocolate doe stood up from her bed and started barking at me. And so everything just went silent, and all the deer left. They ran. They were gone. I thought, it's about 1 PM by this time, so I thought, nah, I may as well just leave. And I turned around and started to head downhill so that I could get back to camp. And as I was walking downhill, I heard some movement in front of me, and I noticed a spiky walking up. It looked like he was walking up the game trail to me. And so I got my camera out. I got my phone out and started filming. And he stopped coming up towards me, and he veered off to the right, and he was sniffing at a doe. And then up jumped the buck, the big buck that I'd been chasing, about 30 meters in front of me, and started to chase the spiker off.
Oh, no.
So he stopped perfectly broadside, and I was able to put a round in him too.
Oh, beautiful.
And I thought there was this big patch of blackberries, and it was like there was a washout underneath it, and I thought he'd gone in there. So I spent ages like looking under it, and I couldn't see him, and I was getting sticks to try and move the blackberries. I couldn't see anything. But I circled around and went uphill a bit. And it turns out I had put my pack down and walked straight past him. He was down, and like he went down straight away. So there was no movement to go off to tell me where he was. But yeah, the two bucks in the space of like probably 3 hours or so. But yeah, really, really nice bucks, and just a really rewarding time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So do you cape them out, or do you just head skin them and take the skull, or what's?
I try to take as much of them as I can. I caped out the bigger one because his mantle coat was just gorgeous, really, really pretty. I couldn't leave him. But the other one I took for €1.
Yeah, beautiful. I see that you've, for the listeners, you've got a fallow rug right behind you. It looks like there might be two there on the couch behind you, and you got a couple of reds and. Yeah, it's a fallow rug and a chittle skin. The chittle that I got with Hainsey is underneath it. Beautiful. But yeah, I just got a couple of cast antlers sitting on the couch beside me. So nice. Do you have any taxidermy or?
I've got 3 deer on my walls at the moment. There's my first Samba stag, my first red stag, and my first fallow buck.
Yeah, beautiful.
But I've currently got 4 deer at the taxidermist. And
that's expensive.
It's very expensive. I need to. I don't see myself getting anything else taxidermy for a while. I've got my Rooster stag is at the taxidermist. My Samba stag, my velvet Samba stag is. And then my 2 big fellow bucks from last year are there.
That's awesome. So from my count, you've taken 5 of the 6 Australian species. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. That's
I just need to get a hog deer.
Taken 5 of the 6 species in a space of what, 3 years. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it, but I still need to get a decent Chittle stag. Like if you're really going for the stag Grand Slam, I'd need to get a Chittle stag for the wall. But I've shot just a couple of meat models of those. But yeah, hog deer. I think hog deer will be a big focus next year.
Beautiful. Yeah. Do you put in for the hog deer ballot?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And how long have you been putting in for that for?
Just 2 years.
2 years. So yeah, still gotta, you could draw it next year, or like one of the guys that I hunted Snake Island with. It took him 20, 25, 30 years to draw.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, my brother actually got a spot. He was supposed to go last year. He got first period, I believe. And that was purely because he was an emergency contact and enough people pulled out.
Yeah.
But he ended up having to pull out too. So,
oh, no.
Yeah. But yeah, one day it'll be my turn.
Oh, it was my biggest fear because, I had New Zealand planned for my 30th this year. And being the end of March, mid-April is when I wanted to go to New Zealand. And I'm like, what's the bet? I draw the hog deer ballot either just before I'm about to go away or why I'm meant to be away. And what happens, I draw it, a month before I'm heading off. So going from organising one big trip, I had to organise 2, and organising Snake Island is just, there's so much that goes into it. It's definitely one of the hardest hunts that I've had to, like New Zealand was easy organising compared to Snake Island. Yeah. It's just completely different. Have you actually gone and taken photos of
boat, everything, don't you?
Yeah, you have to get over there by boat and take all your stuff for being there up to 5 days. So it's just incredible. And then when you shoot something, because the time of the year when I drew, it's still 25-ish degrees, and if you shoot something, you want to get off the island pretty quick so the cape doesn't spoil and the meat doesn't spoil. You've got the opportunity. Absolutely. You've got the opportunity to take 2 deer, but by the time you get one down, you just want to get off the island and get it checked in and get it caped out and all the meat saved, and then getting.
Got it. Definitely get the anxiety going.
It sure does. Seeing a couple of the guys, they lost majority of their meat and almost lost their capes, and it was if you shoot it in the morning, you've got all day to get it out, but it's hotter, where if you shoot it at night, you've got all night to get it back to where you need to get back out on boats. So it's just a social drama. But it's one of those hunts where if you're lucky enough to draw it, that's one of the things that you have to keep in mind, that it's a good chance that you could lose your cape and your meat from it. So it's something you got to keep in mind. Have you actually gone and taken photos of hog deer, or?
No, I haven't. I've taken photos of a captive hog deer, but I guess that sort of area, it's quite difficult for me to get to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't put in much time at all. I'd like to start scouting out a couple of the public spots a bit before next season, and so if I do that, then I'll take the camera out. But no, I haven't really been down there much.
Yeah, if you should definitely try and get out to Snake Island, because anyone can go over there at any time of the year. So
oh really?
Yeah, you don't you can't hunt it, but you can go over there. You can kayak across. You can there's people that ride horses across and all of that type of stuff at low tide. And if you know anyone with a boat in the area, it's, only a 10-minute boat trip. from
Okay.
Port Welshpool. But yeah, you can go over there and take photographs all year round and
Yeah, wow.
all of that. So
I might have to do that. Yeah.
it's something cool to go over if you want photos, because it will give you a good understanding of what they are and how they move. And yeah, there's just some cool terrain over there, that's for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
So how do you see the public views on hunting and hunters?
A lot of mixed opinions on it, but definitely a lot more people are becoming accepting of it. It seems like now that a lot of people are becoming really concerned about the environment, they're wanting to get into hunting and harvest their own meat and steer away from farmed meats. So, yeah, I think a lot more people are accepting of it.
And when do you feel that change has taken over the last couple of years, from like, say, the start of COVID, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely an uptick of people getting into hunting and looking into getting into hunting over that period. It was just insane, whether they were at home and just seeing a lot more of it on social media and watching Meat Eater and stuff like that, and just the decline in food in supermarkets. And it was definitely crazy. Do you have many people hitting you up to asking them to teach, for you to teach them, or?
Yeah, I get quite a few, I get quite a few inquiries. Yeah. And it's tough because I don't know how to politely say, no, I kind of need it for recharging my batteries. And like I love that other people are wanting to get in with it and get on board. But I feel that if too many other people come along on my hunts, it tends to be more of a social focus, and there can be really unrealistic expectations too.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people they see that I do take quite a few deer, and then they think that I can instantly get them onto something. But it's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, and like I'm out in the bush a lot, so I might only have about a 30% success rate, but I'm out all the time, so it might seem more than that.
Yeah, exactly, and that's one of the things with social media. You're posting your successes, but you're not often posting your failures up. So people are only seeing, you going out and shooting stuff, and they're not seeing the amount of times that you've gone out and not shot something.
Yeah, but you have to be able to go out and just appreciate the bush and appreciate the time out anyway. Like,
100%.
Yeah, definitely not all about just shooting.
No, it definitely isn't. It's a very peaceful thing to be out there, and like you said, it recharges the batteries and just resets everything.
Yeah.
So, how would you change the public views on hunting and hunters?
I guess just really focus on the benefits. Like, there's so many positives to it, and I think when anti-hunters think of hunting, they're straight into the negatives. It's all the you're killing a poor innocent animal, but there's so much more to it. It's better for the environment. You're removing an introduced species. You're helping the native flora and fauna. And just talking about the benefits.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
And what is hunting to you?
I've spoken about it a couple of times, but it's therapeutic. It's the Australian bush is a magical place, and the process of it, being able to go out and read the areas and locate these animals, and sometimes just sit and watch them and appreciate them. It's just it's nice. It's therapeutic. It's it's beautiful.
It is. It sure is. So just other than the deer that you run into, what are some of the other critters that you run into that you like to take photographs of when you're out? Or
there's been a couple of areas that the recreational reserves that you can't hunt, that hold feral goats nearby, or I guess a couple of different natives like reptiles. I really like taking photos of snakes, and it's probably a risky thing because I'll get all up in their space and like lay down on the ground with them to get to their level for the better photos. And I think the reptiles are definitely the ones I like the most.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love running into snakes and lizards. I'm not one to pick up snakes, but lizards, I can't walk past a lizard and not pick them up for a cuddle.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty cool.
They are. So if people have enjoyed what they've heard tonight, where can they find you on social media? And
I operate mainly through Instagram, and that's just Mel.Hunts. Mel, full stop, Hunts. I do have a Facebook page and everything, but the Instagram is the main avenue.
And then what about Samba Hunting Victoria?
So that's Samba Hunting Victoria is operated by Edward Carter. And it's just a little hobby business, and he wants to get more people enjoying the sport, because it's something that we have available to us in Victoria, and a lot of people from around Australia come to Victoria purely to enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's a way of connecting people. And his Instagram page is Samba Hunting Victoria, and he's been sharing photos from multiple other hunters that have taken nice samba, or just the field shots, showing some of the country that is involved, that you find samba in, and it's growing rapidly, so I think more people check it out.
And what about where can people keep an eye on your calendars and stuff like that? Do you sell prints as well, or just calendars?
It's all done to order. I haven't done the calendars for a couple of years, but I'm hoping to get more of them done soon. And I guess they are just made to order. Yeah, if someone wants a photo printed, then I'll do it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it, and I hope everyone's enjoyed learning a bit more about you. And I'm sure majority of people have seen your photos floating around on Instagram, whether it's your photography or your hunting stuff. So
yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been an enjoyable thing to be a part of.
Nah, not a problem. Thank you very much.
All right.
See you later.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. Please head over to our social media and give us a follow. Instagram @Hunting Connection Podcast, Facebook @Hunting Connection Podcast, Twitter @Hunting Connect, TikTok @Hunting Connection Podcast. If you've enjoyed, please share with your friends and family, tag us in your photos and videos on social media, subscribe, rate and review to help grow the podcast. If you're interested in giving additional support to the podcast, you can head over to our podcast's Patreon page. Thank you very much for listening, and catch you next episode.